Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Christine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Christine Madera, and I'm going to ask you to please excuse some of the sound quality of this interview for this podcast. In the era of everybody being online all at the same time, we're getting a little creative with sound. Sometimes it works better than other times, but I can assure you this interview with Veronica Torres and Eloheim is totally and completely worth it. Once again, we are with Veronica and Eloheim in the second part of our conversation, where we are going to dive deep into the difference between HomoSapien, which is what we are now, and HomoSpiritus, which is the journey that we are taking at this time. And this, kind of time of challenge is accelerating that movement between HomoSapien and HomoSpiritus. And the choices that we make right now individually and collectively really do help us make that shift. So welcome again, Veronica, and I'm going to have her reintroduce Eloheim, and then we will jump right on in.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today. It's really wonderful to connect with you in this format. It's very, very cool. I'm Veronica Torres. I am the channel for Eloheim and the Council. Eloheim and I started working together and doing sessions for the public back in 2002. So it's been a long journey. It's been an amazing and incredible journey. And it's the opportunity to have that non-physical guidance, that different perspective on human life as we evolve our relationship to fear and uncertainty, break habitual living patterns that don't serve us, and look into the world and see it with brand new eyes. Eloheim's work is very down to earth, super step by step, and they say if it's not practical and actionable, we didn't do our job. So they really break things down and make it possible for anybody who's willing to evolve, to transform, and to release the things that they're ready to release. So what I'm going to do is just be quiet for a couple moments and invite them in. They're already really close, so it shouldn't take long. Okay. They like to talk to
very
people.
Good.
Okay, hang on one second. I'll just be quiet for a second here. Oh, hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Yes. Apparently we're talking on the phone today. It's very interesting. Every time we come in, we never know where we're going to be, and we never know exactly how things are going to go, but we're on the phone, which is fun. We don't do that very often. Hello to you.
Well, thank you. Hello to you as well. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. So you talk, and I know we had discussed this with Veronica earlier, that we are collectively, as Homo sapiens, moving towards this new way of being in Homo Spiritus. And can you talk a little bit about that and from your perspective about this journey that we are all taking, and anything that you have to say about that, because it's such a large question. I'm not even sure how to ask it.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to admit. It is a very large question. And in our world and our work, the difference between Homo sapiens and Homo spiritus isn't just languaging. It's literally an evolutionary jump. You had Homo erectus, and now you have Homo sapiens, and you're going to have Homo spiritus. It is literally an evolutionary jump because it marks a distinct change in the way that the humanoid is using and interacting with the human body, the human form. It becomes a completely altered way of experiencing this planet. Now, do you know about those puzzles, those 3D magic eye puzzles that
yes, I like those. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when Veronica was first exposed to those puzzles, she remembers very clearly she was standing outside of a kind of a drugstore kind of a place, one of those where they have house stuff and you can get medicines and shampoo and all that stuff, one of those kind of stores. And the store had taped a whole bunch of these puzzles in the window. And a whole bunch of people were standing in front of the windows, and they were staring at these things that, look like nothing at first glance.
Yeah. And
people would be staring and trying to figure out what they're supposed to do, and everybody was kind of confused. These were brand new. Nobody had ever heard of them before, kind of a thing. And people would say, oh, I think I got it. I think that's a dolphin. Yeah, that's a dolphin. That's definitely a dolphin. And Veronica would look at it and think, how the hell is that a dolphin? And people would be like, then all of a sudden down the row, like 5 people down, you hear someone go, oh, my God. Whoa, wait. Oh, my God. And everyone would cluster around. What? Whoa, I mean, I can't even believe it. I can't even believe the difference. Now, if you've ever done the puzzle, you've had that feeling of like conning yourself into, I think it's a dolphin if I squint, and then all of a sudden you look at it just the right way, and it's this undersea world with seahorses and coral and plants and fish, and you're like, I was conning myself into believing that I was actually experiencing the fullness of what is available to me. Do you understand that example?
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally. It's amazing when you see it. Yes.
And that's the difference. It's a perfect example of the difference between HomoSapiens, dominated by personality, and HomoSpiritus, which is living the truth of awareness. Awareness has always been present, just like the picture was always showing you the seahorse in the undersea world. It was always there. It was your inability to get out of the habit of using personality to look into your world, to experience your world, and falling for the stories and the limitations that personality dishes out and telling you that you've seen the dolphin when you know you haven't, but you're conning yourself into it, imagining you've seen more than is there. So what we've been helping with people with is the step-by-step progress to notice when they're lying to themselves that they're seeing a dolphin, when they're telling themselves a story, when they're pretending to look more spiritual or look more evolved, and how to surrender all of that BS stuff that personality throws up, so that when you surrender it, what remains and what has always been is awareness. And awareness is our word for the opportunity to experience humanity, to experience Earth, to experience having your, what we call your gingerbread shape, your physical form, experiencing all of the beauties of Earth without all of the limitations and habits and patterns and nonsense, let's say, the conning you into that goes along with personality being in charge.
Wow, that is one of the most concise ways I've heard it. That's wonderful.
Yeah. One of the other ways to think about that, if people don't know about the Magic Eye Puzzle, we want to give them one other way, is imagine that you have a band, and in that band there's guitars, and there's tambourines, and there's drums, and there's a singer, and that's plenty. And in that band, the drummer is so loud that all you can hear is the drums. And you can kind of figure, like, there's probably something else going on. Like, if you knew guitars made sound, you'd be like, what's that other dude standing up there? Why is that girl over there on the keyboard? What are they doing? I can't hear anything they're doing. But I kind of think there might be something going on because I can see other people, but all I can hear is the drummer. And then all of a sudden the drummer has to go to the bathroom, and so he gets up and he goes to the bathroom, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. All this time, all those other sounds have been happening? But I've been so fixated on the drummer, and no one typically tells the drummer to shut up, so that's all you get is the drummer. The drummer being that voice of limitation, that personality, that fear and uncertainty driving the show, that forgetting you're a chooser, all that stuff we talked about. So quieting the drummer, not falling for the idea that you've seen the 3D puzzle, but really staying with it until you do. These are just various examples we've come up with to help people realize there's something going on right in front of you that people are completely overlooking all the time.
So what are some things you've talked about going from level 2 to the level 4 of being in the present moment and of being a chooser, and you talked a little bit about level 6 of being in a place of when it just escaped my head, of non-triggering, of not being triggered. So what are some of the other kind of touchstones as we begin to shift from HomoSapien to HomoSpiritus that, we can say, oh, okay, I've got a little bit of that, or, oh, that's something I need to really focus on or work on. What are some of the nutsy boltsy steps that we are using individually and collectively as we move forward or toward, or whatever the right word is, this new state?
So one thing to remember that's extraordinarily important is personality cannot tell you what awareness is like. Personality is incapable of telling you what awareness is like. And a visual for this is, imagine you're on the moon and you're looking toward the earth. You see what you see. Now go stand on the sun and look toward the earth, and you recognize how much more you can see that also includes everything the moon could see. So personality is a subset of the experience of awareness, and that subset can never know the entirety. So personality, we call it sneaky personality when it does this, will try to tell you what it's like to be in awareness, will try to tell you it's not worth being in awareness because awareness isn't as good as you think it might be. It's really nasty. Veronica calls it the bad boyfriend that you have a restraining order on. Like, literally, it will come up with the nastiest things to say to tell you you can't. It's not worth trying. It's not as good as you think it'll be. You'll never pay your bills if you're in awareness. All that kind of stuff will come up. But you have to remember that awareness is a field of infinite possibilities. It is all it is. And you have been operating under an extraordinary amount of limitation as personality. And when you surrender the limitations without having to have absolute knowledge of what it will be like once you do, you're just saying, like, I've been running around with dark glasses on my eyes, and I'm going to take the dark glasses off. The dark glass me does not know what it looks like to see the world without the dark glasses. And I cannot tell myself what it will be, or convince myself, or reassure myself. All I can say is that I no longer wish to live with the dark glasses on my eyes. And I set them down. And when the temptation is to pick them back up, I release that temptation as well. That's that chooser thing, right? Choosing again to set down that sense of limitation. So surrendering personality in all the ways it shows up. Surrendering it. Now, what that often looks like is, if you find yourself viewing a situation from limitation, I know I'm in personality here. Just saying that. I know I'm in personality here, and I want to set it down. I want to set down the idea that only A or B are my options. Only fear and worry is my option. Only thinking about the future is my option. I'm going to just keep setting it down. You just shed it. And you don't shed it with, because it will get me. See, that's the thing that light workers sometimes slip up on. The vending machine, we call it. The vending machine. You go to the vending machine, you put your quarters in, you get a candy bar out, right? You expect there to be an exchange that you can predict ahead of time. Surrendering personality is not the cosmic vending machine where you know what you're going to get. Thank goodness, because then the only thing you could get is what personality could dream up.
Yes.
You see? Instead, you're setting down the entirety of that. Another visual we like for this is, imagine you're at the Roman Colosseum. Can't go there right now, but just pretend you're there. And they throw down a shield and a sword, and everyone's screaming and applauding, and there's the whatever king, whatever they called that guy back then, and you pick up the sword and you think, I'm going to be a really good fighter, or I'm going to be a really good light worker. And you all of a sudden get ready, and there's a clang, and all of a sudden they're going to open the gate, and the people that you're supposed to fight are going to come out, and you're like, I'm going to do a good job, I'm going to do a good job. And the whole damn time, if you would just look to your left, there's a door that you could walk out of. Surrendering personality is walking out. It's saying this whole dynamic where I can be an awesome gladiator for good, or whatever crap I've told myself, that's all personality limitation, that imagines my whole world happens inside this Colosseum. I step out the door, I set down the sword and shield, and I experience and explore what is there for me when I'm not trapped in limitation of personality. I don't need to know ahead of time, because the only thing I would know is more of what personality wants me to experience. It's the ultimate act of letting your free will free you by surrendering personality and opening up to experience and explore awareness.
You know, I had a little bit of an experience with this myself. I had a head injury, and it's a pretty significant concussion. And for a couple of months, I could not think. Like, I could tell when my personality was coming online, and I've got a very active personality, and I can usually, there's a big gray area where I'm not quite, I have to catch myself in it. But when I was in this particular experience, it was very clear, because I could be in awareness and I could be fine. I could cook dinner. I could kind of mostly function. I had to be in a dark room because the light hurt my eyes quite a bit of the time. But I was surprised of how much I could function, that my personality had convinced me that if I was in awareness, I couldn't function, like at an everyday level, and how much I could function from that place of no thought, of just being able to be in total observation and awareness of what was going on, and cooking dinner without thinking about what I was doing, and cooking dinner without actually having to participate in thought and personality. And it hurt every time, like, I would begin to tap back into this personality. My brain would hurt. It was really, really significant. And for me, it was a wonderful experience. People say, oh, concussion, that was horrible. And I'm like, no, this is a great gift, because it really showed me how much I could function in awareness that I didn't believe that I could, and what life was like when I wasn't like dipping back down into the personality on a regular basis, because I couldn't. And it was amazing. I didn't get a lot done, but it was a wonderful experience while I was in it. And I continue to reference back to that experience in my life now, so that when I feel like I'm moving back into that place of personality, I'm like, no, we can function in this other place. It's just practice.
It's a perfect example, because thinking is one of the highlights of personality. If it can keep you thinking, it's very, very difficult to be present. And one of the things it loves to have you think about, as your story illustrates, is thinking about how if you stop thinking, your life will fall apart. And yet yours didn't. And here's an example everyone can use. If you had to constantly be thinking, and personality had constantly be arranging everything in order for you to function, well, then you'd have to constantly be thinking about your heartbeat. You'd have to constantly be thinking about your digestion, right? And you don't have to constantly think about those things. Also, what happens to that idea when you go to sleep? You're not thinking. Dreamless sleep. What is that? That's not personality running the show, right? So personality, the thing about personality is its con job is awesome. But the smallest amount of shining the light of consciousness on the con job of personality, it collapses. Like but it's so good at conning you, and it's been doing it for hundreds of lifetimes, and it's doing it to everybody you know, that it takes quite a lot of willingness and steadiness to say, I am going to surrender it, even though I don't know what I'm getting myself into, even though I don't know what it's going to be like, even though everybody else would disagree with me, I still know that those dark glasses we talked about earlier have to come off, because my personal evolution stalls at I'm not triggered anymore. Like, great, how many decades do you want to do? I'm not triggered, I'm not triggered, I'm not triggered. That's not the pinnacle. It's only the pinnacle of Homo sapiens. And when you're in HomoSpiritus, one of the big differences between personality and awareness that people kind of lose sight of sometimes, because what happens is people tend to just get better and better at level 6 rather than make the actual jump into level 7, and 7 to 10 is what we're working on now. They just get better and better at level 6, and they convince themselves that's great. Well, here's the catch. Here's how you catch that. Have you had a distinct, even radical shift of perspective? Like you could have said during your concussion recovery, oh yeah, I didn't really care about anything. I was okay all the time. But you didn't say that. You said I was totally shocked by how different it was. You see how that's very much not the same thing?
Yes.
And so we can't make people know what their radical change of focus will actually end up being. And in fact, it tends to be tons and tons and tons of them. But try not to settle for just better and better level 6. Better and better, I'm not bothered by the world. A lot of light workers are running around out there saying, I'm not afraid of the virus. And we're like, great, but that's not actually profound. That's not profound. When you have a profound shift in your perspective, a profound shift in your relationship to the physical world, a profound shift in how you regard the day-to-day experiences you have. I mean, the conversation about that is our ongoing teaching, right? That's what we're teaching currently in our ongoing meetings that we have 4 times a month, is what that looks like. Living with awareness, having personality out of the way, how that shows up, what that evolves into, and how that looks. That's our ongoing teaching. Powerful
okay,
time.
And it is a powerful time, and that's a powerful teaching, because I think you're right. There's a lot of light workers that have been in that level 6, ongoing for quite some time and don't really know what the next level is. So your teachings with Veronica are actually moving in toward those levels 7 and beyond. And
no, they're not moving in toward. We want to. Sorry, we're interrupting you.
Sorry.
It seems impolite, but there's a very important distinction that we want to make.
Okay.
Because it's very easy for personality to say it's just a refining, a refining, a refining, a refining, a refining. And levels 1 through 6 is exactly that. It's a refining. Okay. But once you get to what we call level 6, the movement, we wish we hadn't called it level 7, to be honest, because it makes it reinforces that refining idea. But the truth of the matter is, it's like a whole other thing way over there, not even close to the same jump.
Okay.
Right? It's like, the difference between the baby picking up the rattle for the first time and studying PhD physics. Like, it's not even close to the same thing. So it's very important for us, not that you had any idea about that, but this is a point of contention for us right now, is folks have to break the habit. We're on our community about this too. Like, everybody, come on now. We have to break the pattern that says it's just a little bit more, and recognize that it's a radical difference to surrender personality's dominance and allow the experience and the exploration of awareness without personality's influence.
Yes, and I can attest to that, because I've been playing with this on my own and having, grand experiences, and then it's like, whoops, I'm back in personality or back into the level 6 place. And so I can feel and experience the difference. I can't articulate it. You've articulated it better. But so what is something that can, you said it was a profound shift in how you experience life. Is there some other little tidbit you can give so that people can understand the aha of being in level 6 and being then in the advanced PhD program that you're talking about as far as awareness?
That is a hard question to answer. We'll do our best. It's a hard question to answer because everyone has a very individuated, unique experience of that change. That difference between level 6 and awareness, that is extremely and profoundly different for each person. But we'll tell you what happened to Veronica yesterday as an example. She found herself very viscerally experiencing the sense that she could step out of what makes her Veronica while still retaining a sense of individuation, but surrendering a sense of what made her Veronica. She felt like, you know, when people get into those big astronaut suits, how they sort of step in the back of them and then they close them all in. It was like stepping back out of that. And there was a real feeling that the possibility existed for her to move into what we call alternate expressions. You guys all probably call it past lives. Move into the perspective of another version of herself. That felt like a real thing. Now, it didn't exactly happen, but the backing out of her own experience did happen. And then the potential of what that means, and how that would play out. I mean, that's just one example of how day-to-day life happens. But another more maybe a little bit more accessible example are things like people recognizing that when they have surrendered the identities and surrendered the definitions and surrendered the personality influences that are going on, that they end up in a state of what we call choiceless choice. We spoke about it earlier, but this is where it really plays, is that in awareness, you are impulsed via choiceless choice, rather than in personality, you're driven by the to-do list and the outcomes you want to create. In awareness, you're impulsed all of a sudden, because you're not cluttered up with all of personality's BS, the clear impulses from choiceless choice to act occur. And those actions may make no sense at the time, or may make no sense to personality, but they're inescapable. They're inescapable. So Veronica does readings for people sometimes, and she'll just be, one time she was in bed, and all of a sudden it was inescapable that she had to do, she has people who are on a monthly plan where they get a reading every month. And she was inescapable that she had to do the reading right then. She did the reading, she sent it to the person, and the person wrote back and said, "How did you know I needed this right now? How did you know?" And it's like she didn't know. Personality didn't know. It was an impulse from choiceless choice that had no connection via personality's ideas to how it should be timed. But it was impulse from choiceless choice. And when that impulse from choiceless choice occurs, it only happens when you're present, because you can't be in awareness if you're not present. So it's not like you're saying, oh, well, I knew I was supposed to go blah, 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 blah. That's all personality, right? I knew I was unavoidably urged through choiceless choice to do something in this now without attachment to how it plays out. It's simply this now is that. That's just one of the ways. Remember, this is the field of infinite possibilities you're in when you're in awareness. So all of a sudden, everything is possible, and nothing is defined by personality's limitations. You are no longer a slave to the way personality has dictated your days to go. Instead, you are free to experience and explore it as it unfolds. It's unfolding. Personality sees a rose and it wants to pull on the petals to make it bloom. Awareness recognizes that the rose, the observer of the rose, and the entirety of the universe are all one thing, and it's moving. And in that movement, you are experiencing, exploring, witnessing, and chronicling the unfolding.
Yes. And I love that example, because that is one that both of your examples are ones that I can resonate with, but that second one in particular, it happens so often, and the temptation then is not to immediately go back into personality and either talk yourself out of it or seize the moment and try to, bring it into some kind of personality, tangible to-do list thing. But to stay, this is my challenge and the challenge of people that I know in my community, because I have these conversations with them all the time, of staying in that state of like, this is what's rising in that state, and to be with what's rising in that state, and to not question what that is, and to be with that moment, and not flip back into the shoulds or the, is it really right? Is this true? That's a big one. Is this true, or am I making this up? But to trust the awareness in the moment. And I know for me, like it's where the big juice of life is. And it's also at this moment in time, one of the big challenges, because it's this new state of not really knowing how to be in it in a way that I'm in it all the time and trusting it all the time. But you've been very helpful in helping to clarify that.
The temptation is always to have a personality experience, surrender that by choosing. You choose to surrender it, right? Then you're present. You have some kind of an experience that's dramatically different, distinctly different from personality. All of a sudden, we call it an awareness experience, if you like that term. And then to allow personality to evaluate the awareness experience rather than to abide and then chain together. Veronica likes to think of it as a tapestry, weave together your experience and exploration of awareness, deepening it, rather than going back into personality and going, how did I get there? How can I repeat it? What should I do about it? Should I tell people? What does it mean for my future? Will it pay my bills? What about my rent? So that temptation to continue to use personality to evaluate awareness experiences is one of the ways that people keep themselves from abiding in awareness. Very distinctly, we have observed that happen a lot. The other thing we've seen people do is try to convince themselves they're in awareness when they're not. That's another way.
Can you talk about that? Because that's a big one. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So personality dreams up what awareness is, and then either tells you can't have it or tells you you're in it. And the whole time it's still personality telling you. So it's that distinct difference. Remember the example of you only hear the drummer, and then all of a sudden you hear the rest of the people in the band. If it's not a distinct difference, it's likely to just be a refining of level 6. And because, here's the trick, because level 6, not being triggered, has been the goal of so many spiritual communities, it's really challenging for light workers. Often it's very challenging for light workers to say, I'm going to set down even this. Because they imagine setting down not being triggered means going back to being triggered, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Setting down the idea that not being triggered is the end is what we're doing. You take that non-triggered state into an experience of something bigger. You don't just simply go back to level 2 and start over. It's not reincarnation. We don't have to start over as a baby. You get to bring with you what you've learned. You just surrender saying, we say just, that's probably not a good word to throw in there. You surrender saying, this is all there is. Veronica likes to think of it as a big swimming pool. And you have to let go of one side of the swimming pool to swim. Like you have to let go. You have to let go of what you have always known without the promise of what it will be like, only the recognition that I will no longer operate under limitation. I'm no longer willing to solely operate under limitation. So I have to surrender the limitation, take off those dark glasses, in order to experience the more that is. And the idea that personality can tell you what the more it is one of the biggest challenges for people, because they want to know what they're going to get. Tell me what I'm going to get, and then maybe I'll do it. It's like, how about this? How about you recognize that what you've got is all you're ever going to have? Not possessions-wise, but evolutionary-wise. That's as evolved as you're ever going to get, unless you're willing to set down the limitations within which you have been operating. Wow.
And there's one more thing I wanted to say about that level 6 place of not being triggered. This was an awareness and an experience I had the other day, is that I had cultivated the feeling and the experience of feeling safe regardless of what was going on. Every once in a while I get triggered, but I had that, that level 6 kind of thing where I was feeling safe, all this stuff could happen. But there was beneath this a belief that I was unsafe. And so I realized that I was operating in the feeling of being safe, while the belief system beneath that was that I was unsafe. And I thought, well, how many other beliefs that I'm unsafe and that kind of thing am I papering over by cultivating this kind of feeling that I am safe, even though so that I'm not addressing those underlying discrepancies. And so that really opened up a whole new level of, okay, where am I not operating in truth? Like, where am I operating in sort of the self-delusion? And that was really interesting, because I know in the spiritual community, so many people do operate in that place of I'm never triggered, and yet, there's almost a brittleness with that of I'm never triggered, but like, don't push me too hard, because I might just fall into pieces. But I won't be triggered. I'll feel okay about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the personality thing. That's the level 6 thing. You've got it exactly. You've got it exactly in the invitation there. When you feel that sense of like discovering, oh, wait a minute, I've been conning myself. Yeah. I've imagined that running the race in 3 minutes is the only thing that matters. Did I run the race in 3 minutes? Whew, I'm safe. I ran the race in 3 minutes. I'm safe, and if tomorrow I can run the race in 3 minutes, I'll be safe again. But you have to remember, safe, unsafe, that's duality. Yeah. That's level 1. Yep. Yes. It's not about safe or unsafe, right? That's not the goal here. The goal is recognizing that back to level 4. We can always come back to level 4. Choosing your response to your experience. Wow, I'm tempted to interact with this now from a dualistic perspective. That is definitely not the field of infinite possibilities. So I know I'm in personality. Mm-hmm. So what if, instead of saying, am I safe or am I not safe, even am I triggered or am I not triggered, am I present? Am I present? And what unfolds, what reveals, if I'm present, it really, 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 really starts with being present. Because when you're present, personality doesn't have a big hold on you. And it gives you the possibility to start experiencing the unfolding of awareness. And when you're experiencing the unfolding of awareness and you don't use personality to evaluate it, then you're likely to have a continuing experience of awareness. And those continuing experiences of awareness create these vastly different ways of navigating the now, navigating your life, navigating your relationships that unfold naturally, just like the rose blooming. You do not try to control it. You experience and explore, witness and chronicle it. And when I'm in that space, like, everything feels like such an amazing adventure. And I love that space, and I'm able more and more to be in there. But it is that shift that it's nice to know that that's kind of part of the HomoSpiritus experience, because it is such a delicious experience of the now, of being in this open state of, wow, this is an adventure. What's now? And I don't want to say what's next, because that's the future, but, being in curiosity about how things are coming into the now. And, the more I'm able to be in that, which is a bigger and bigger experience, like, the more magnificent and amazing all of life really is. And the more all of this unknown that we're in feels like an amazing recreation of our whole experience, rather than, a crash of everything that we have come to expect life to be. It feels like a lot more opportunity than it does a catastrophe, even though, there are a lot of uncomfortable elements within how things are unfolding for many people. Yes, and one of the things that we talk about a lot is finding your doorways to awareness, right? Finding what makes that drummer quieter. For a lot of people, gratitude will work. So you don't have to be like grateful for a person, or grateful for, the farmer that makes the bread or whatever, right? You can just be grateful for the fact that you can feel something with your fingertips. You can be grateful for the plant that's growing on your desk. Pull it in and find those immediate gratification, grateful places where you can connect, and it helps you be in the present now, in the present moment, connected to your body, if you use gratitude around immediate things. And you can also be really powerfully connected to awareness through fascination. So in a similar way, how often do you think about, wow, it's amazing that someone made this sofa that I'm sitting on? How cool is that? I mean, really, if we think about it, that's amazing that there's a sofa here. And let yourself feel gratitude, let yourself feel fascination as ways to connect to the now and stay in the now. Not just say, I'm in the now, right? Feel that connection to the now by being grateful and present, not just what is true now, which is powerful, but what am I grateful for now, and what am I fascinated by now? And one of the other things that helps folks is we say every now is new. So every now is a new opportunity to do these things. So if you find yourself that you've been, oh God, I've been in the future and tripping and freaking out, okay, every now is new. Be grateful. Be fascinated, be in awe, be amazed, whatever word works best for you. Everybody's got these different doorways to awareness. But when you find your doorway to awareness, then if you slip and personality's running the show, you can use that doorway to come right back. Use that doorway to come right back and find that muscle. It's the advancement of the level 4 idea, right? It's level 4 is like choose your reactions to your experiences. Don't get pissed off at the guy who cut you off on the freeway, that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
But then we start to say, choose to be in this now and access fascination and gratitude to help you abide in this now. Because even someone who's in a difficult situation, which many people are right now, we understand that. You can still be grateful. You can still be fascinated. And being grateful and fascinated isn't denying reality. Being grateful and fascinated allows you to access the field of infinite possibilities, to cut out all the limitation that personality is trying to dish you, to give you more opportunities to find the unseen potentials that exist in every now. It's all fractal,
Yeah.
And that's the invitation.
I love that.
That are really struggling, because a lot of people are, and a lot more people will be, is to continue to recognize that pounding on yourself about your limitations and reinforcing personality's dominance is ineffective. And moving into those doorways to awareness allows for you to have more opportunities that personality could never dream of, and personality would talk you out of even if it could.
Yes. And what is always fascinating to me is really how simple these things are. And we try to make everything so complicated, but the simplicity, it's not easy, but it's simple to come to the present moment. It's not always easy, but it's simple to find fascination and to find gratitude and to begin to play with those and trust those as a way of moving forward. And the personality always tries to make everything so complicated and really celebrates complexity. And there must be, some secret magical oracle thing that I need to discover in order to make these shifts from HomoSapien to HomoSpiritus. But what we've been hearing for years and what you've been saying now is that it's really consistently practicing these simple tools and actually prioritizing that over the personality's experience of daily life.
You've got it exactly. We always say to people,
well, great.
We're not telling you have to climb Mount Everest. We're not telling you to swim to the bottom of the sea.
Well, but that would be easier. If they feel like it's hard, people will do it and believe it. And I used to say this when I was doing hypnotherapy. If people would not believe that they had made changes because there was no suffering in between. There was no challenge between where they were and who and what they were after they had a hypnotic experience, where it could just change their perception of things. If there was no suffering, no hardship, no something, because we value that, right? If it's, no pain, no gain. If there's nothing that I do, there's no effort, there's no this, then we don't validate this new experience. And that's a whole paradigm shift in and of itself.
Well, that again,
it's actually...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that it's the ease. It's the ease of the present moment and the ease of being gratitude and and coming into those experiences that are not stressful, that are not trying, that are not efforting, that are not these things that actually allow us and help us to move toward this new experience. And it's not the over trying and the suffering or the pushing or those things like that we think that we need to do in order to get somewhere.
Again, personality sets the rules. Personality tells you where the goal is. Then if you get close, personality moves the goalposts and beats you up for having not scored.
Oh, perfect. I love how you said that. That's exactly true. And to step out of it and be in the present and find your gratitude and open the door instead of moving the goalposts.
Exactly.
Well, wow.
Surrendering the whole, it's an entirety of paradigm shift. That's why we call it an evolutionary jump for the species. It's an entire paradigm shift.
It is. Well, thank you so much for this. And if there's anything else that you want to add to this, that's great. But I just wanted to thank you because this has been amazing.
You're very welcome. It feels like that was a good place to conclude for today.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to talking with you sometime again soon.
That would be wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to share these ideas and to give people the alternative that they really need right now.
Thank you again, Veronica and Eloheim. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I want to tell you one more time how you can get in touch with Veronica and find out more about Eloheim. So you can go to Eloheim.com, which is ELOHEIM.com, or you can find out more and join the Facebook page, which is the Connect with Eloheim, one word, in the Facebook group. Both of those, and also links for the learn to how to create your reality cards that Veronica has created based on her teachings with Eloheim. All those links will be available to you on the conversationsfromtheedge.net page as well, under anything that has Veronica's bio. This is your host, Christine Madera. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.